When my daughter turned 12, I took her to her doctor for her annual appointment. The nurse asked if I would step out. She had some questions to ask her in private. A little uneasy, I obliged as they handed her a survey. When I came back into the room, I peered over her shoulder to see what she was answering. Are you hurting yourself in some way, or do you plan to? How often have you had thoughts that you would be better off dead? Have you tried to kill yourself in the past? Do you have thoughts or plans to kill yourself in the future? I looked at my daughter in her sparkly shoes and braids and was horrified that this was the conversation her doctor, who she'd see once a year for 15 minutes, would have with her at age 12. The truth is, rewind 8 years from that appointment, and I could relate. On my living room floor, I sat, watching my youngest boys play with their trucks. I felt like a shell of myself. Something was wrong, and I couldn't figure it out. Why did I feel so low? I found myself looking for a label for what was wrong with me. Was this anxiety, depression, hormonal issues? Was I eating too much gluten? I am from Boulder. Isn't everyone here allergic to gluten? One day, I stumbled across old pictures of myself from when I was in my 20s. I had chopped all my hair off. I was trekking through the villages of Nepal and eating dalbat in remote homes. I felt free, alive, and inspired. Who was that young girl behind the grin? It was there that I found Buddhism and began the practice of retreating. I'd find secluded monasteries or sacred power sites in caves or on land, or even quiet hotels, and take the time to go inward at least once per year. I'd meditate, read, sleep, hike, and journal. It felt like a different lifetime from where I now sat with my young boys. I decided that's what I needed to find my way back to myself, a retreat. And so, leaving my young family behind, I booked a trip for myself to Costa Rica, alone. I didn't want to go with a program or a group. I just wanted space to rest and reflect. What I realized on that retreat was that the problems that I faced back home were not situational. They were problems of the spirit. I no longer belonged to myself. I had outsourced all of my energy onto the needs of everyone around me, and it was in retreating that I remembered who I was. Sure, some of us do struggle with mental health, but for most of us, trying to fit into a culture, a pace, a role, or a society that is itself unwell, we lose ourselves. Retreating is a proactive tool for self-care in a world that just wants to slap a label on our discontent and send us on our way. Okay, so what is a retreat? Retreat is defined as the act of moving back or withdrawing. In practice, a retreat is to leave for a given period of time for respite and inner development. You can leave for a night, a weekend, a week, or if you're lucky, even longer. A schedule is chosen and adhered to, and there are 9 elements to weave into your retreat to ensure that what you're building is a retreat and not just a relaxing vacation, a girls or guys weekend, or a party. All of those have their place, of course, but retreating is a discipline for the mentally well, not just a luxury for the affluent or a practice for religious zealots. You see, retreating offers so much more than well-being. It helps us access our creative potential. There are 4 stages one must go through for any creative output: preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification. Preparation is where we gather seemingly unrelated ideas. Incubation is an unfocused time of relaxation. In illumination, you'll receive a flash of insight. And verification, you test your idea out into the world. Incubation is the step that is most often skipped in our fast-paced society. This is exactly what retreating offers, that unfocused time of relaxation. It's why so many great thinkers from our past, from Thoreau to Mozart, have come out of their solitude with incredible breakthroughs, insights, and works of art to share. What about our sense of spirit? These days, we hold less space for matters of the spirit like traditions, ceremonies, and rituals. We used to meet these needs through religion, but since the turn of the century, the percentage of US adults with no religious affiliation has more than doubled. This is neither good nor bad, yet implicates the priorities of a new generation. The question then becomes, where in our lives do we make the space for spirit? Retreating provides this white space that nourishes our inner life in ways we can't access in daily living. Okay, so what happens? You actually decide to go on a retreat. What happens when you go on a retreat? After years of taking myself and others through the process of retreat, I've uncovered what I call the inner trajectory of retreat. We all go through different emotional and energetic stages when we're retreating, and we go through the same ones every retreat we go on. For the purposes of this talk, I'll just speak about the first one. So you'll notice it says unease and apprehension. So as your retreat approaches, you'll start to second guess your decision for going. You might even try to talk yourself out of it, saying things like, I don't have enough money for this, I'm just too busy, now's not a good time. You may even do what I did on my recent retreat, which is to call my husband from retreat and say, I just feel so guilty being away from the kids, I'm gonna fly home. To which he said, isn't this that first stage you always talk about? It's as if everything in your environment is testing you, asking you, how badly do you really want this transformation of yours you seek? It's helpful to know this stage is here because when it comes up for you, you can continue forward. The goal is not to pull out of your retreat. If you want to reach the more elevated stages of emotion and energy that are possible later in your retreat, you can't back out here. Okay, what about when you come home? What are the benefits of retreating for you when you come home? To an observer, the changes you make from your retreat may appear small because they happen inside first. But these tiny 2-millimeter shifts have the potential to radically shift the outcome of your life, like a ship making small turns over time that puts them in a completely new destination over time. I've had clients come home from retreat and finally decide to forgive an ex-husband or wife, or ones who decide to leave that soul-sucking job. I've had people finally say, I love you, or it's over. I just returned from a solo retreat in Ireland last weekend. I stood on the craggy edges of the island and felt the salty Atlantic air on my skin and let the wind whip through my hair, and I remembered once again that my worth has nothing to do with how much I produce or how many people I can take care of, but that it is inherent. I feel grounded, powerful, and alive again. We all deserve to be reminded of this again and again. Now, if I may, I'd like to speak directly to the women in the room. We all, everyone in this room, can benefit from the practice of retreat, but we women are the ones most at risk of losing ourselves. For society is not set up to support us. All you have to do is ask a new mother, and you will know this is true. If you feel lost, broken, hollow, exhausted, or even blinded by your own ambition, this is not your inadequacy speaking. This is what it feels like to exist in a culture that is unwell. We women are the archetypal teachers, mothers, guides, and healers. When we have lost our way internally, our children, the environment, and our community suffers. But we know deep within the marrow of our bones, we are our own greatest healers. We need no medication or label because we are not broken. All we need is to make space for ourselves again. And for all of us, while retreating is solitary and to a fool may appear selfish, it is humanitarian. Healing, knowing, and owning ourselves in a disconnected world is how we do our part to heal the collective. So I urge you, retreat, do it regularly, as if your inner life depends on it, because it does. Thank you.